Now, switching to our main presentation, it's all about value proposition. Now, John Pryor, who leads our management consulting practice, recently actually gave a talk. Amazing, over 400 people attended.
And it
So
was very well
It,
received.
it really was. And so we thought we would share aspects of it with you, our audience. Now, unfortunately, because of unplanned client commitment, John cannot be here with us today live, but you got the next best things. You've got both Jacques and AJ here, and we're going to show segment. We're fortunate enough to have recorded it.
Right.
So we're going to show segments of the recording from John. And all right, so in today's segment on value propositions, it's going to be a two-parter, maybe even three parts. We're just going to discuss kind of what it is, but actually mostly what it isn't. And there's actually a lot of confusion about that.
Yeah. Before we get started, though, if you have questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat, and we'll try to get to your questions after the presentation.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll start by asking a question. How did a topic of value proposition arise? You know, we all know about vision and mission, business strategy at the corporate, firm level, and also at the proposal level, win strategy, right? Now, value propositions related to those things, but it's actually quite different, and it's an important topic for the business we are in. So let's hear from John and play the first recorded segment, please.
So this first section is 4 slides, and it starts with what does the value proposition mean? So that's really the basics and the first step here. And so this first slide I put on an Occam's razor, as many of you probably know, if not all of you. Occam's razor is the law of economy. It's this idea that says if there's 2 explanations and one is simpler than the other one, you should use the simpler explanation. So with that in mind, if you just Google value proposition, you get a dictionary answer that comes up, and it's just value proposition. It's a noun, and it's in marketing, an innovation, service, or feature intended to make a company or product attractive to customers. The key piece here is in marketing, is how it's defined in that way. Investopedia, it's all about the value a company promises to deliver, and again, they tie it to an overall market strategy. And I want to be clear, I am not advocating that these answers are where we're headed, but I want to give you a sense of what is actually out there. And then last, on kind of the easiest sort of answers, and again, Wikipedia, not that I am validating Wikipedia's answer, but if you just kind of Google it, you get a quick answer. It's the promise of value to be delivered. So this is sort of the easiest, most straightforward. If you just Google it and want to see what value proposition is, these are sort of the top answers that you would get. The story is similar but changes slightly when you move over to the "I've got something to sell you" group. These are not mine, but this is others out there that are selling products that have relative to value proposition and how they define it. Corporate Finance Institute, again, talks about a promise of value, but then they move to this idea of why a customer should purchase it. So there's a second piece, again, lightly related to marketing, but it's about why, as opposed to just the what. Decision Link, which has a lot of great tools. I am not associated with them, but a great organization. They've got some really interesting stuff. They actually have their own proprietary concept on how to do this. But again, they are about, well, why would a customer want to choose you? So again, other than the previous slide, this is really more about converting it to the customers and what it means for you. And then Strategizer describes it. This I think is probably for me the closest. Describes the benefits customers can expect from your products and services. And I will make a little bit of a plug for Strategizer. They do these great, they're effectively graphic novels, but they're quite useful. And so they have one on value proposition design. They have several of them. Their website's really interesting and really useful. But again, these groups here, as they transition to things they're selling you, it's about why a customer is going to want to interact with you.
Hey, fantastic. So I know that the text didn't really look and focus on that. I think it's just because it was from a recording, and it was just a recording that we did on ad hoc basis. We had not reported it at the time explicitly to rebroadcast, but we were lucky enough to actually have that.
Right. Right.
Indeed. So now, as you've found out, there are many different definitions, and as we discovered just from John's talk there, that there really none of them are particularly crisp and actionable.
Right. So let's go. Let's go. Let's.
Let's see how academics define it, right?
Sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see how, and that's the next part here, and we're going to play the next segment. Let's see how the business academics define it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought the most interesting thing, though, when I was preparing for this conversation and doing some of my research on it, is I came across a journal, the Customer Value Proposition, Evolution, Development, Application, and Marketing, which was an article that was written about 5 years ago that really encapsulated, in a lot of ways, what I wanted to say to the group, which was this idea that, again, it theoretically it's about value to customers, but those next 3 bullets are really what I thought were most interesting and most relevant. There's this as they looked at sort of this large survey of what is out there on value proposition, it's talked about a lot, but it's not really clear what it is. And as a result, there's a lot of poor implementation. If you can't really define it, it's difficult to be able to articulate it and break it out. There is research, but it's not a lot of research. Again, and then the last part that's in quotes, frequently tossed about casually and applied in a trivial fashion. And that, for me, really hits the nail on the head with value proposition in a lot of ways. In many respects, it's sort of tofu. It kind of means everything to everyone, which sort of means it means nothing to anyone.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So AJ, why do you think there's so little research on value proposition?
Yeah, I would have expected actually a lot more. So I didn't actually understand. So I think it's a mystery because, business academics have written about everything else,
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many business books out there now, maybe none of the academics have actually ever had to have sold a product or a service to a client. So
There's got to be a
Indeed.
reason that hasn't gotten any attention.
Indeed. Yeah. So I know that some of you, not everyone is able to read the slides. We're going to make those available. We'll send a link out later for how to get hands on the slide. We're going to actually post it into our learning management system.
Yep. And I'm walking away from this. This might be some good research for SMA to do.
It might be. You're right. Maybe we could do that in our partnership with Claremont.
That's right.
Broker School.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So now let's go ahead and play the last segment for today's part on value proposition. Now this one's
First of
about
all,
5 minutes.
value proposition is not about your competition. We'll turn to competition at the very end of this presentation, but it's not about proposition. It's really about the value you choose to offer, what your company is going to offer, what you as an individual, or how you're offering that value, what you're offering. And then it's about your customers and how your customers perceive that value. So there's 2 elements to value proposition: you and your customers. Again, your competitor really isn't part of your value proposition. Whether or not you win or lose has to do with the competition, and so that has implications for how you apply and pursue your value proposition. But it's not what your value proposition is. So from a you standpoint, there's sort of 2 pieces. There's a goals and aspiration. What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And then there's a products and services. And so does what you offer, does that actually reflect who and what you want to be? And we'll talk about that more in the application section. And then from a customer standpoint, sort of 2 pieces. What do they want and need? And do you actually have that? And so it's important to recognize that your value proposition won't work for everyone, and it shouldn't work for everyone. So as you think about which customers you're serving, if there's a mismatch, is that mismatch because you're serving the wrong customers, or because your value proposition is sound, but that doesn't work for that particular group of people you're targeting? Or are you serving the customers you want to serve for any number of other reasons, but the value proposition doesn't actually match that, which means you need to change it? And then at the very end of all of this would be, well, why should they get it from you? And that's it starts to turn to the question of why not get it from your competitors. Okay, next section is on what isn't value proposition. And so there's 2 slides on this. So particularly in the context of proposals, there are some things that value proposition is not. So first of all, value proposition is not capture strategy. Capture strategy is a customer and internal facing activity. And it's really this idea of influencing the customer on your preferred organization or solution, normally around a specific capture or a specific set of business opportunities. It sits broadly on top of how you're going to go about engaging to sell your product and to convince a customer to buy your product. And so you'll often hear this in the context of government, particularly DoD or other large scale government proposals, but it's not unique to government. It works in other places. That then leads to a win strategy. Win strategy is internal facing. It's all about really figuring out what are the things that you need to do, the actions you need to take, what your team has to go about doing to bring about a win and execute against that capture strategy. In theory, if you do all the things, if you've done it right, in theory, as it says in that 3rd bullet, it guarantees that our team is selected in theory. And then win strategy then connects down to win themes. And so win themes, for those of you who write proposals, as you know, those are customer facing. And those are the reoccurring messages that we prove on a regular basis throughout the proposal that collectively add up to why we are the best choice: differentiated, risk managed, acceptable cost, best value. They are repeated, but as it says, not repeated over and over. But these things are not value proposition. Value proposition may influence these things, but they are not value proposition. The other place, particularly in the context of proposals, some people can get tripped up is the idea that features, benefits, and discriminators, and that's value proposition. Again, that is not value propositions. Features are simply a what. All they are is just the distinguishing characteristics of your approach. They're not even the so what, that's the benefits. The what is just what it is. The benefits are the so what, which is why a particular feature is good. More importantly, why is it good for the customer that you're pursuing? And then discriminators, again, gets back to competitors. This gets into the case of why is your particular benefit better than your competitors? And as you'll often hear in the industry, there's kind of 2 cases. The one is best case, which is we're really unique, and there's lots of ways to do that. The other one is a me too, where it's taking up space, but you have to take up space. Otherwise, you're not able to at least keep up with the Joneses, so to speak.
Wow. Okay. That was really interesting. It was such an alphabet soup of terms we use in our industry.
Right.
And I think a lot of clarity really needs to be brought to bear here. And so I think this is the beginning phases of that. So we know it's not capture strategy, win strategy, themes, features, benefits. It's related to value proposition. I think in many respects, as we think about how we help our clients win, right, help them win either a competition or in their particular markets at a more higher level, that it might all actually start with value proposition. That's really kind of where the starting point should be as we think through how to help a client. Yeah, so it's related but different, right?
And I agree with that, AJ.
Mm-hmm.
I think based on everything we just heard, we really need to explore how we create a value proposition, a winning value proposition.
We do, and continue with trying to make sure we clarify that against what we call win strategy, capture strategy, discriminators, the entire alphabet soup, right? So how do we create one? Well, stay tuned, because we're going to have John Pryor back next week to answer that question.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too. Now, vision, mission, values, they're the overarching themes of a firm, a value proposition. I think from what I just listened to John, really occurs at a product or service level. I think,
as I listened to what we said about value proposition,
mm-hmm.
It occurred to me, that it's likely customer centric. And
Mhm.
I'm certain that our proposal professionals that are in the audience and throughout the firm will want to enhance their ability to create a more effective value proposition for our customers.
I agree with you. Yeah, so this is a very important topic to us. It actually doesn't get as much airtime as it should.
Yep.
And so it's something we're going to pay some attention to.
Excellent.
Great. So just, I think most of the questions were already addressed by some of John's discussion as well as some of ours here. So it's been great. We're gonna, of course, have John back next week on how one develops a value proposition. I think that'll bring a lot of clarity in terms of what it really is and how
I-
it's different.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.